Why, hello there. You caught me at a precarious position. As you see, I am in the midst of my weekly session of mountain hopping. As in, hoping to climb this mountain. Hey, it is I, Madhog, with my usual high energy. Oh, you got it now, didn't you? With my usual high energy demeanor, and here's Matimali providing the low energy assist.
Yeah, it's the typical comedic chemistry that is usually used. There's that high-strung guy, and then there's that low-strung guy.
Except the high-strung guy is also tired tonight, so I don't know how much high energy I can fake, master.
Oh, that's a troll.
You're a troll. Oh, you mean the troll? Yes, the actual troll. Yes, he's there. So, I don't know if I said this before, I probably did. But in Skyrim, you are not supposed to be able to climb mountains. You're supposed to find a path around them. But...
Even... But Todd Howard promised you can climb the mountains.
Well, you are not supposed to be able to do it, but you can do it. If you jump around enough times, you will lock to an hotspot into the supposedly unclimbable mountain. And depending on how... You know... Depending on how steep the climbing is, you might be able to succeed. The fact of the matter is that it could be a great shortcut if you don't want to actually go around the body of rock.
Next Elder Scrolls should have...
What?
Next Elder Scrolls should have mountain climbing mechanics.
Next Elder Scrolls should have more convenient traveling options.
Oh, I know. Next Elder Scrolls should go steampunk.
Okay, so listen. I'm going to stop you there before we go from steampunk to cyberpunk, and then we talk about another game entirely.
No.
Yes, let's not talk about a terrible, terrible experience for millions of people.
Breath of the Wild made the Legend of Zelda formula that fresher by going steampunk with its world.
There is nothing even remotely steampunk about Breath of the Wild. I don't know where you get your idea. What do you think steampunk is?
I mean, it's kind of a clockwork thing. And,
I mean, that doesn't really...
Okay,
you know what? We're talking about this now. We are definitely talking about this. We're putting Skyrim aside for the foreseeable future and talking about what exactly steampunk is, because I see a lot of confusion about it. Somebody thinks about an aesthetic. I don't know, it has clocks and mechanisms, some people dressing in a Victorian manner, maybe some engines. No. Steampunk, specifically, is a reinterpretation of a specific period in human history, between the first and the second industrial revolution. When you take the technology, the aesthetic, the presentation, urban or otherwise, that was available at the time, and you spice it up with some fantasy or futuristic elements. For example, you might have robots running around that might look like locomotives, powered by steam, hence steampunk. That's the steampunk aesthetic. You can't just have a random, spacious, post-apocalyptic world not set in the 1800s and call it steampunk. That's not how it works. It might be steampunk adjacent or have steampunk elements, but Breath of the Wild is about as steampunk as Cyberpunk 2077 is cyberpunk. Wow! Oh snap, by the way.
Yeah, I guess I remember from its early promotional material that it was going that way, but
Yes, well, I've
yeah,
actually seen the game footage. There is little to nothing on that direction. I'm glad we had
Yeah.
this one-way conversation. Now, back on Skyrim. Back on Skyrim. It just sometimes I get riled up for nothing, really. Okay, so what in the world was I doing here? Okay. Last time we were trekking our way towards Riften, which is still kilometers away from where we are, and we are traveling by foot. Such is the rule. And I am hunting. And I set an elk on fire.
Well, you both kill it and roast it at the same time. It's very handy.
Elks are surprisingly sturdy for your meager first hours of the game arrows.
Yeah.
I think I managed to lose it.
I guess we last time talk about that I've eaten elk on a pizza.
Elk pizza! You learn something new every day!
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was the elk, but no, I killed a random goat.
Yeah, the owners of the goat are not going to be happy.
Well, luckily they don't know I did it, hence why I am not being chased by guards. Hooray, this is Skyrim, this is the game. So, we are going around.
Criminal scum.
That's Oblivion, not Skyrim.
What they do say in Skyrim again? I don't remember.
Something a lot more boring. In fact, I cannot even remember.
Oh, they just say it in Austrian accent.
No, not the Austrian accent. That's just one guy, okay? It's Swedish. It's supposed to be Swedish. Dang it all. No, they say you are something or the other charged for crimes against the Skyrim and her people. How do you plead or something along those lines? It's very uninteresting. It doesn't quite have the same impact, the same oomph as what do they say in Oblivion again?
Hold, you criminal scum.
Would you like to try that again?
Hold, you criminal scum. You have violated the law.
Okay, well, that is a very pizzazz-filled introduction. In fact, you remember it, and it has been memed a little bit, as far as I know. So, meanwhile, the only element that's been memed to death about Skyrim is, well, guess I have an arrow to the knee. And other such nonsense.
Wait, that's in Skyrim.
Yes, that's in Skyrim. What, you didn't know that? Why are we even...
Oh, I thought it was in Oblivion.
Why are we even playing this? I mean, why are we even commentating on this? What are we doing with our lives? Just let's stop the video, go back to sleep and never wake up again, I suppose. My gosh. I thought I was able to choose my co-hosts based on competency, but apparently it was nepotism all along.
It has been 3 years since I've played those
It has
games.
been 10,000 years! Okay, so we might as well pick a few side quests along the way to grind, to become stronger, and everything in between. Here's a quick reminder of what our objectives are for this adventure. Yes. So
find the greatest porn ever.
Find the legendary smut. Yes, I was going to put it more euphemistically, but you beat me to a punch. Yes, that is one of the goals, but in order. We secured the power of the Lover's Stone. That's goal number 1. Now we are on our way to Riften to achieve a few of the side goals, the optional ones, such as joining the Thieves Guild and getting away with murder. Our end goal...
Oh,
Yes, you forgot about that,
Oh,
didn't
so-
you?
but you're not joining the Assassin's Guild for that.
No. Joining the Assassin's Guild takes us way off the beaten path. Way off the journey. The goal. It's too far away from where I need to go in order to secure Volume 1 and 2 of the Lusty Argonian Maid. So I did not bother with that. Besides, I joined the Assassin's Guild at pretty much every playthrough because the alternative is to destroy them, but that really doesn't lead to anything interesting.
Oh yeah, I didn't do the Assassin's any guild missions really, but I do know that you get to murder the current Emperor of Tamriel.
Yes, you can do that. And you know what changes after you killed the freaking Emperor of Tamriel?
Nothing.
Nothing! There is no consequence to anything you do in this game. What a game. Why do I like it again?
Well, I guess that kind of change may take some time to really take an effect on the politics and such.
You would think that somebody would notice that the Emperor has gone missing, or has not returned from his personal private cruise ship.
Well, and I guess Tamriel, I guess the Cyrodiil is really far away from Skyrim, so it may take a while before the ward reaches.
Also, when you defeat either group of the Imperials or the Stormcloaks, there is no real tangible consequence to the lay of the land. Nothing that really matters. Maybe some dialogue options change, but then you fumble upon the occasional camps that still think they are at war and nothing has changed.
I guess the word hasn't reached them yet.
The war takes the entirety of Skyrim into consideration. A big point of contention between the various holds of Skyrim and therefore the various zones of Skyrim is that some of the Jarls are behind Ulrich What's-His-Face and some of them are not.
Yeah, I mean that in this is medieval times, so information moves slowly.
Okay, if information moves slowly, then somebody better informed all those couriers that go around and give me an instant letter of inheritance when somebody dies literally 2 seconds before that. That had an inheritance on my name. So that doesn't really fly, does it? Which is it?
Yeah.
Is information fast or not?
That programming that would be a really hard thing to do.
Listen, good games actually allow you to experience consequences for your actions, especially if they have a huge repercussion in the world. Skyrim is not concerned with that. I love Skyrim, but I certainly don't care about the plot of Skyrim.
Yeah.
I have
guess
made
it's
that
also the
abundantly clear many times, have I not?
Yeah. And I guess there's also the problem of how we are going to cram this in Elder Scrolls 6. What the player chose in the previous game, does it affect here? Oh, this is going to take all night to program.
Ah, yes. Actually, you bring up an excellent element about the Elder Scrolls as a whole. Nothing that the player character does in those games has any real impact in the overall history and the lore of Tamriel. Because the history books in Skyrim tell of the Oblivion Crisis, and they only tell about what the bastard son of the Emperor did to save the world. What the player character did is not mentioned anywhere. Because for the history, for the lore and continuity of the Elder Scrolls series to actually function at a basic level, the player is never allowed to actually make history, to make it to the history books. They only serve the purpose of driving the plot from point A to point B for the entire benefit of the NPCs that actually matters in the grand scheme of things. And that's a recurring problem with almost all games that star a player-created characters that are meant to have a longer story and continuity. I guess BioWare manages to somehow circumnavigate the issue a little bit by forcing the player to take some limitations when it comes to character creation. They're not allowed to make a wholly original character. It has to be a shepherd, and it has to be a hawk, depending on the series, depending on the game. But they have another issue, a very well-known issue, in that the choices you make don't really matter in the long run because you're always stuck into a very arbitrary binary ending that the developers, the makers, and whatnot of the game really cared about, and it doesn't really take into consideration what you as a player wanted to achieve. And that was a problem already very, very, very well illustrated by the ending of Dragon Age 2. And by the time Mass Effect 3 comes around, well, everyone else noticed.
Yeah, I guess usually in these story-driven games where there's a lot of choices, they don't really affect the plot, but they do affect the story's tone. Oh.
It's not even that big of a deal because of that.
Yeah, I don't mind those.
I mean to say that it's not a big deal what you actually do in those games, what you accomplish personally, because it's undermined by the grander plot being already predetermined to go either one way or another.
Yeah. In the Elder Scrolls 2, the Daggerfall, there are 6 different endings depending on who do you side with before the big
It has
climax.
to be said that the beauty
and
of...
do you remember how Morrowind solved that problem?
How did it go again?
Because in the climax of Daggerfall, the player character turns on the Numidium, this super mecha that, which alone it's turning on, manages to make ripples in time, and because of that, all the endings of Daggerfall happened at the same time.
Oh, I hate it.
Time shenanigans.
I hate it. There are no words to express how much I hate it. I don't like that at all.
And that it also reflects on the schemes of the main villain of the Morrowind, who tries to turn on another Numidium and change history.
You know what? I changed my mind about Skyrim. It's fine. Don't give me consequences to my actions. Don't give me any of that. Just don't invent some ridiculous excuse as to how and why all the endings of the game are canon simultaneously. Time traveling shenanigans, interdimensional foul plays. No thanks. Keep it simple. You don't need it to be more complex than it is. Just let me have my cat girl punching bad guys or scratching them up until they don't move anymore. That's what Skyrim is good for, dang it. I will say it once again. Skyrim is a good game if you're in it to just have mindless fun and debauchery. Because you can do whatever you want to a point, and you don't suffer consequences for it. That's the beauty of it. That's a blessing in disguise. If you care about the plot of your RPG, I don't know, play Disco Elysium, as I suggested again. Play the original Fallout games, or Fallout New Vegas, which is pretty good. West of Loathing, it's really funny and witty, and you might actually get a laugh out of it. It's well written, at the very least. There are options, there are alternatives. The larger and bigger a game is, the more underdeveloped its plot is going to be, because clearly priorities had to be set and some elements were prioritized over others.
Yeah.
If you wanted to take a game like Skyrim, as big as it is, and polish it up a little bit more in terms of its plot and in terms of its bugs and glitches, then it would have taken a lot longer to actually make it.
Yeah.
For example, it's taking an age for The Elder Scrolls 6 to come out, to the point, in fact, that we don't even have a teaser trailer for it. We just have an idea, a general promise that it's going to exist. Which tells me either two things. It's taking a long time to make because they want to make it the best way they could, or executive shenanigans are happening and they are scratching a project and restarting multiple times, which happens so often, is scandalous. That's the gaming industry for you.
Yeah, really. And besides the before Elder Scrolls 6, there's going to be coming out their new sci-fi role-playing game, the Starbound or something. Yeah.
Well, somebody
it's
has.
Take a while.
Well, somebody has to fill the void left by BioWare, I suppose.
Yeah, they're going to take a while, but it doesn't really matter because there are other games to play in the meanwhile.
And there is a good chance they're going to be better RPGs than Bethesda-produced games.
Yeah, I've never understood the attitude that some are launching for sequels for products. That, oh, my life is so painful when this Golden Sun 4 hasn't come out yet. Ah, the pain.
Yes, well, we could circumnavigate back into talking about Cyberpunk 2077, because that's a prime example of that attitude. But honestly, I don't care. I have never cared about it. Not even when it was first announced. I was already so over about the cyberpunk aesthetic, and I was very much expecting this game to not even really being cyberpunk on a philosophical level, just a very wishy-washy, predictable, generic take on it, and I was absolutely right. So let's just not even mention it anymore.
Yeah.
But yes, it is a prime example of that cult of personality attitude towards a new AAA release that could be really applied to anything major that has come out in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
It's pretty ironic. No, not ironic. Tragic. That cyberpunk as a genre went from being a warning about the unrestrained dangers of capitalism and also a very misguided Japanophobia to being a tool of capitalism, because anything and everything can be monetized. Even anti-capitalist sentiments can be monetized by capitalism, thus undermining the very nature of those sentiments. The
Like
genre
Wall
of
Street movies.
well, unless they're made by Martin Scorsese, I would say. But yes, Hollywood as a whole has a bit of a hypocrisy problem. The same applies to the AAA gaming industry, in that they want to sell a product with the vague promise that the product is actually anti-conformist in some way, which is bollocks right off the bat, and it doesn't really work with the idea of where it is coming from. Hollywood never really condemns capitalism, because Hollywood is a product of capitalism. So the best you can hope for is the Disney formula of there is a bad capitalist, but then there is a good capitalist. On that note, I really hate Iron Man.
Capitalism needs fixing. I know
Capitalism needs reforming and some major changes towards more socialist ideas, but that will never happen because the ruling class is the ruling class. In the last 4 years of my life, I think I might have radicalized myself politically a little bit more than I initially intended, on the premise on the premise that I am becoming increasingly tired of all the bollocks that I have to see coming from people in power.
Yeah.
Also, yes, I know I have this conversation every 5 minutes with my friends on podcasts and off podcasts, but it bears repeating. And then let's go back to the original point, in that don't support the AAA gaming industry. Support your local indie developers. They do not have to answer to a higher power, so they can make their games and their stories however they want them to be. And more often than not, that means we get a real, proper dissection of the dangers of capitalism, proper, real cyberpunk, for a change, and other themes and topics that can be tackled any way they want to, without having to answer to executives. Sneak increased to 45. One hit shot to that orc guy.
It depends from case to case. Sometimes it works, and sometimes you get stuff like
I don't.
Heaven's Gate.
I'm not saying. Okay, you brought up Heaven's Gate, so we're back talking about Hollywood. We have been jumping back and forth between Hollywood and the gaming industry. They are basically the same beast,
Okay,
but different.
Think for a game where
different presentation. Hollywood has the Academy Awards, and video games have the gaming awards, which are just as bad, if not much, much worse.
The game I liked didn't won this year, therefore I hate it.
Yes, I don't even want to bring up all the issues and controversy about The Last of Us 2. I have not played it, so I cannot formulate an opinion over something I have not experienced for myself. But I've seen some legitimate criticism about it, about its portrayal of the trans character, the one token trans character in it, that didn't make real-life trans people happy, being either ignored, aggressively remarked upon, or dismissed entirely. What I'm trying to say is that developing toxic ideas, cults of personalities surrounding a video game that comes out at any point in time never bring up good things for anybody involved. Because most likely, the douchebags who dedicated their existence in the celebration of a title that's not come out yet will be disappointed and crushed, which has happened time and time and time again. But most importantly, the people who are actually trying to provide some legitimate criticism to the practice, the malpractices of the industry, the way workers and developers are treated, crunch time, or even in general attempting to have a positive discussion about the philology and the criticism of the media, those get hounded like wolves, essentially.
Yeah, I recently watched an interview of Tim Schafer, the
Tim Schafer, yes.
And when he was asked about the crunch time, he said that in his younger days he didn't mind it because he was so excited and wanted to do things. But now that the developers are getting older and they have families, then there has been a coming more attitude against it because now they have other things to do in their lives.
Okay, so believe it or not, the old guard of video game development has a similar problem to, say, what's a good example? The old guard of the animation industry. In that these were people who were super enthusiastic about crunch time without thinking about how it would affect their health. And that helped in the long run. It is not the sole responsible, but it helped creating a mentality that doing the crunch is a noble effort for the higher art. If you're making films, animation, or video games, you have to crunch yourself to the dust. That's how you show the people who are waiting for the art how much you care. Instead, all you're doing is making a bunch of executives happy with your labor that you're not going to get paid for it, most likely. Unions are important. Create unions, people. Protesting en masse and unions are historically proven to work against the excesses of capitalism. The parasites, the real social parasites. Anyway, Skyrim. There is a game we're supposed to be commenting on. There isn't much that I am doing that I haven't already done before. I'm just raiding a bunch of fortresses, mining in a cave. The usual. Nothing new on that front.
That the first smut volume in some dungeon or something?
The first Don't call it smut volume, please. You're giving the wrong idea to the audience.
I thought that was the old... Then what it is? Erotica?
Yes! It's classy! Erotica! If you please. Anyway,
So,
the
yeah.
first...
So I've understood that the cat lady's life goal is to find them both and then have a
Well, actually, her life goal...
pleasuring session with them.
Her
because
life goal...
she's a
Okay,
self-sexual
no,
icon.
please, stop! Please, I'm begging you. Do you want this video to be demonetized? It's not smut, it's not porn, it's sophisticated erotica. Thank you very much. Let's be clear about this. There is nothing explicit about those books, but it is filled with really funny allusions. Okay? Are we
so
clear on
it's-
this? It's hot because it's implying. And by implying, I mean, okay, you're being too obvious here, and that's the comedy.
Okay, so I'm trying to find some kind of something similar to.
I'm going to answer to your early question. The first volume is in the... Well, actually, there are several first volumes, just like there are several second volumes all around Skyrim. It just so happens that the one I'm hunting down is in the Dawnguard Tower, because that's where I found it on my own the first time I found it in my previous playthroughs. So I'm sort of reliving the glory days.
Oh, there are several of them.
There's only volume 1 and 2. I'm saying that there are several editions of volume 1 and 2. Copies available for grabbing. So I reloaded the file because I wanted to take out this woman stealthy-like and hopefully do a German suplex, which I remind you is one of my side bonus goals that I did not manage to accomplish. Right. So how long do we have before the end of this video? Oh, it's only been 37 minutes. Oh, I've run out of things to talk about. What shall I do?
Well, you should always have a list of things that you can talk about just in case the
I was
flow of
hoping
speech.
I was hoping the content would be more exciting at this point. The content of the game. But no, we're still walking and raiding. You know, being there, seeing that, done that.
And killing bunch of people. And for what? For erotica?
Well, no, for their money and physical possessions. They are not really connected to my hunt of the erotica. They just so happened to be on the way, so they died for nothing.
So, in raunchiness, is that Argonian tale more like something like Eurotrip, a kind of a teenage comedy, or is it something like...
Okay, imagine William Shakespeare, but as a funny erotica book.
Midnight Summer's Dream.
Okay, I know you said A Midnight's Summer Dream, but it sounded as if you said A Midnight Summer Stream, which would be funny if we were recording this on summer. In summer, I should say. It's not quite A Midnight's Summer Dream. It's not quite like that. It's... Okay, imagine the script of your typical porn if it were presented as the script of a Shakespearean play. That's essentially the Lusty Argonian Maid. You will see once we read it. You will understand what I mean. I've increased my
Thus
heavy
I
armor.
see thy able bosom. I shall... That is my will of the gods.
You know what? You are much closer than you think. Something along those lines, yes. But like I said, a lot of really funny allusions and metaphors. I don't want to spoil it to you. You will have to be patient, my friend.
Hark, lady, dost I see my dangling lightning thunder rod?
That's pretty much it, yes. Oh, fair lizard queen of my crown jewel, would you please polish them? Wouldst
I
thou
apologize, my...
Wouldst thou polish me jewels?
I forgive, my fair lady. I seem to have troubles in discovering thy sweetest spot that gives you the most pleasure. Could you guide me gently towards it?
No. It needs to be... No. That's too direct. It needs to be more elusive. My fair maiden, it would seem I have trouble following them up towards your treasure. Could you point me to where the X is? You know? Something like that. Okay, enough with that. You will see it once we read it, okay? Don't spoil yourself the surprise.
Yeah. Well, I guess if we run out of things to say, we can always return to the Shakespearean smut.
The Shakespearean smut. I'm pretty sure older plays back in the day would indulge a lot more into the sexiness of the scenarios than we are led to believe. Actually, now that I think about it, I remember an old softcore porn from several decades ago, which would make fun of Shakespearean plays. I cannot tell you what it is or what its title is to save my life, but I definitely saw something like that. And no, before you say anything, it is not the porn spoof of A Midnight Summer Dream. That's an entire beast altogether. It was a play within a play kind of film, very metatextual, in which a Shakespearean play was presented in it in front of an audience as smutty. Hey, Matti, when you start sounding like a horn hound, can I call you Smutty? Smutty Mali.
Let it be known that while I'm generally being a prude, I have enough imagination to think of scenarios.
Okay, well, if you have to use your imagination to think of scenarios, that says it all. Did you grasp my subtle dig at your prudeness with that? No, too tired.
Well,
I understand.
Well, some people just don't like it kinky.
No, some people like it hot, on the other hand. Some like it hot.
Yeah.
Also, apparently man prefers blondes. That's news to me. Any more classic Hollywood titles you would like to force into a sentence?
Let's go to Porky's after this.
I said classic Hollywood! That's 1980s!
What is classic Hollywood?
I mean, Golden Age, roughly.
Oh yeah, until the half point of 60s.
I mean, if we are being sincere, I would say that the Golden Age ended with the 50s. There was already a huge shift in general audience preferences. When the TV becomes popular, that's the end of the Golden Age, in my opinion. Because now Hollywood has competition. And I died, yes. I'm glad you noticed.
Yeah, I was remembering that the first new Hollywood movie came in 1964, I think.
I believe, okay, there is never a sweet, clean transition between eras of anything, but between the Golden Age and the revival of Hollywood in the 1970s, there is more of a gray zone in which Hollywood has to figure out what to do with itself, because at some point all of its biggest budgeted mega blockbusters, they were starting to fail, and people were losing their jobs and entire studios were closing because of such failures. The sentiment, the general sentiment of Hollywood in the 1950s to compete against television was to going at it with the biggest and most special effects money could buy. And of course, such a mentality would inevitably produce its fair share of failures, but also its unimaginable successes. Think about the Ben-Hur and Cleopatra dichotomy. One was a huge success on every possible angle. The other flopped so hard, it's forever etched in infamy.
It truly was the fall of the Roman Empire.
Yes,
there I managed to grab a title.
Yes, and also this makes me think of Hail Caesar by the Coen brothers, which is an apt allegory.
Yeah, I've seen that movie. It was...
I like it. I thought it was more of a return to form for the Coen after this very, very, very long string of excessively nihilistic titles. One more depressing than the other. So it was nice to see them come back to making fun of Hollywood, satirizing Hollywood practices, and just having good actors saying funny lines.
Your character is fighting like a cat on a tin hot roof.
Well, very appropriate. You fight like a cow? Give you a Monkey Island reference to answer your classic Hollywood reference. Okay, are we drunk or on drugs? What is this podcast? What is this commentary we are recording? This is wild.
You said you were tired. Your brains haven't gotten any oxygen for a while. So
I never mentioned anything about oxygen or lacking thereof. Don't put words in my mouth.
That's what I guess the not sleeping for a while causes the same kind of effects as...
I never said I was sleep deprived either. I said, before we started recording this, I said I was tired. That's very broad and general. It doesn't really link to anything specific. Why are we talking about this? Why are we having this moment? I'm confused. What were we talking about? Yes. Okay. So I died by the hands of that bandit leader. So I tried again, taking her by surprise, which landed a critical hit, making her much easier to deal with. And then I won, and now I'm looting the place.
Okay, yeah, I just wondered that suddenly a character appeared on the screen.
Also, you've got to like that knife over there frozen in time because the menu is on while I was discarding that
Oh,
knife.
that's a knife.
Yes,
Okay,
that's a
I
knife.
thought it was
And now the knife has touched the ground and the world is revolving again.
Yeah, I thought first that it was some character that was far away.
You think, okay, that's funny to me. Oh, look, there is a guy over there. He looks suspiciously like a knife.
Well, it wasn't very precise picture.
Okay, I have to remind myself that you're watching this footage through Discord on the other side of the continent. So some images might come off a bit blurrier than intended. Anywho, I think we are
now you're
nearing
looking at your
inventory, yes, to see what can I discard because I was
jewelry
starting to be
collection.
heavy. Yes, that. Okay, this is an expert lock once again, but I will definitely open up this lock because I am the master of unlocking. See? I did it! There is no ironic comeuppance for me to say that.
What was this character's name again?
Alicia Meowtown, which I think she's canonically the sister, long lost sister of my other cat OC, Malicia Meowtown. She's known as Alicia the Punchcat in this particular iteration.
Okay.
Which is funny to me. What?
Have you ever heard the tale of the Punchcat?
Tell me all about it. Now, seriously, go on.
She has a mean right hook.
No! Really? Okay, we are relatively close to Riften, finally. Jeez. So we can save ourselves from the pain of having to record a commentary. Okay, so fun fact. My original OC, Malicia Meowtown, she was initially from the game series Disgaea. She was the Nekomata unit in that game, because Disgaea is a strategy RPG series. So she was a mean, punching, feline machine, and I like that unit very much. It's my favorite unit from the game. And I don't know how much you've heard about the Disgaea series, but level caps are pretty insane there. About 9,999. Not counting
I only
reincarnation.
know that it's like comedic tactical role-playing game about hell and its power struggles or something.
It is, but it occasionally gets serious with its plot. To its detriment, might I add. Oh, they're fighting a troll.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's why I was confused, because I saw some...
yes, I thought for a second that they were going to attack me, as they have before, but no, there was a troll. Cool.
Yeah, I was confused because I saw that there's coming a Disgaea RPG, and I thought it was already an RPG series.
No, it was originally just a strategy RPG, much like Final Fantasy Tactics, but on steroids.
But that's still an RPG, albeit strategic.
Strategy.
Yeah.
You know how, turn-based strategy games, such as Advance Wars, where you place your units on the map and you have to move units and attack enemy units.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the genre, but I've only played the real-time strategies like Age of Empires and such.
Okay, well, I don't like those. Anyway, so, as I was saying, my Nekomata unit from those games became my most recurring OC, and this is my first brush with Riften. A bit of world building, a guard trying to shake me down for money. I said no, and then he lets me in.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever you choose, he lets you in anyway.
I'm sure this is meant to give you an idea of what you will find in the city that hosts the Thieves Guild.
Yeah, I remember that Thieves Guild mission because I needed their help in order to get to the sewers to a important character, but it also at the same time started the Thief Guild missions, I guess. And even though I failed that mission, the recruiter still says, "Well, I still see potential in you." I mean,
Yes,
what?
this is
Whoever
bollocks.
fail-
It's a bit
Yeah,
bollocks, isn't it? You end up always as the leader of a guild. By the end of it, that's the footage that has just ended. We have run
oh,
out of
okay.
time. So you always become the leader of a guild in these games, even though it makes zero sense that you would do so. Why am I the archmage of the Mage Academy? I only am good at one thing, at one spell. Why am I the leader of the Thieves Guild? I'm not good at stealing. I'm good at killing. I should be the leader of the Assassins Guild. Why am I not the leader of the
Yeah.
Assassins Guild? Oh, because I killed the entire Brotherhood of the Dark. Oh well,
Yeah,
that's
Skyrim
another
were-
timeline.
Yeah, I think Skyrim went a little too far with its power fantasy
Yes,
side.
well, honestly, I don't care much for the power fantasy alone. I like for said power fantasy to have a proper context, as in, can I get to, I don't know, punch clansmen in this power fantasy? I would care about that, because I hate racists. Let me punch some racists. Now that's a power fantasy I can get behind. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I shall make that video game for you.
No. Okay, we have reached the end of this session. I maybe will continue to tell you the story of my OC, Militia, or not, in the next episode. But regardless, this is it for tonight. Thanks for joining us. I have been Madhog, thy master, who's fidgeting and gesticulating the entire time, but you cannot see it. And now it's your turn.
And I'm hedonistic actor who has been
Apparently falling off of Discord. I can hear the sound of you falling off Discord.
Oh?
Yes. So that's going to be fun for me to edit. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Now would you please shut up about the smut?